Our Lives Intersect and Intertwine by Tanya Marquez. It is a wonder and a mystery that our paths have crossed, that in the immensity of time and the vastness of space, we coincide here. I am in awe at the ways in which our lives intersect and intertwine, at the beauty we create when we gather. May our coming together make us more compassionate, more just, more caring, more loving. May our hearts and minds be open to this offering. I am so glad you are here. Let us worship. Let us marvel at the miracle of being here right now and the mystery that has brought us together. Good morning. I'm Karen Mazzata. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship's dual platform Sunday service. It's always good to be together. We're streaming live from our main hall in Huntington, so please be patient with any technical mishaps you may see or hear. A big hello to all who are in touch with us on Zoom and on Facebook. We'd like to extend a special welcome today to visitors who may be joining our service for the first time, as well as any newcomers who are returning. If you're new to our congregation and want to speak with someone to learn more about us, please contact us by email at office@uufh.org. We'll put this information in the chat during the service as well. Know that whoever you are, whomever you love, and wherever you are in your life's journey, you are welcome here. Some brief announcements. Please note there'll be no live service next Sunday, September 4th. Not here in the main hall or in Zoom. However, you can look for a link this week in the upcoming flash to the Church of the Larger Fellowship, and there you will find recordings of recent completed services, as well as shorter homilies on a variety of topics that you'll be able to enjoy. You can also always go to our website and click on Worship and Sunday Service videos and catch up on any past Sunday services that you may have missed. We now have 50 recorded services available on YouTube for your viewing pleasure. We will return on Sunday, September 11th, here and on Zoom, with our homecoming service here in the main hall and on Zoom and on Facebook, led by Reverend Deborah, and we hope you'll join us there. Our Wellspring and Touchstone small groups are looking for new members this fall. You might ask, what is small group ministry? Small group ministry is an intentional, lay-led small group that deepens and expands the ministry of a congregation. Two key focuses are intimacy, or building community and deepening relationships, and ultimacy, or the opportunity for deeper spiritual exploration and search for meaning. And save the date for September 17th at 10:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. for a special virtual LIAC workshop with Paula Cole Jones. The topic will be the 8th principle, building a culture of inclusion. Please see our website's news and announcements page for details about these announcements, as well as this week's flash. It is now my pleasure to introduce our service leader for this morning, UUFH member Valerie Skopaz. She is a retired land use planner, whose goal was to accommodate new development while protecting ecosystems. This goal led to interest in facilitating the efforts of individuals with their community to initiate and sustain creative changes within society and the environment. And now I invite you to relax in your bodies and quiet your minds as we breathe deeply together and settle into our time of worship. Please join me in saying our mission statement. The words will be on the screen. In religious community, we nurture our individual spirits through caring for one another and helping to heal the world. Our chalice lighting. By Crystal Hogan, we carry our faith into action. We ignite this flame, symbol of our faith, to beckon us into community, warm our hearts with love, and give us a light to follow as we carry our faith into action.
I'm going to read Turn Back, O Man, by the English poet and playwright Clifford Back in 1916. If at any point you cannot hear me, just raise your hand and I will project better. You may recognize some of these words from a musical from the 1970s called Godspell. Turn back, O man, forswear thy foolish ways. Old now is earth, and none may count her days. Yet thou, a child, whose head is crowned with flame, still wilt not hear thine inner God proclaim. Turn back, O man, forswear thy foolish ways. Earth might be fair, and people glad and wise. Age after age, their tragic empires rise, built while they dream, and in that dreaming weep, would they but wake from their haunted sleep. Earth shall be fair, and people glad and wise. Earth shall be fair, and all its people one, nor till that hour shall God's whole will be done. Now, even now, once more from earth to sky, peals forth in joy the old undaunted cry. Earth shall be fair, and all its people one.
I invite us all to sing Spirit of Life. Following the song, we'll enter into a time of silence and then prayer. As you participate here and at home, remember that it's not about the perfection of silence, but the intention. Join with me now in singing. What We Do Matters by Laura Horton Ludwig. Spirit of life and love, we are here because we believe what we do matters. We are here because we believe how we live our life matters. That with every act of kindness or meanness, courage or fear, love or hate, we are weaving the fabric of the universe that holds us all. We are here because we need encouragement, because we need strength, because so often we get distracted. We get in a rush. We don't think. We choose the easy way when the harder path is what our spirits truly long for. We are here because none of us is perfect, but together we inspire one another to try again, to take another step. We're here because we have felt the stirrings of love and grace in our hearts and hands, and we crave more of that for ourselves, and not only for ourselves, for everyone. We are here because how we live matters. Blessed be. I will now read the joys and concerns given to me before the service. We invite you in the future to either write them on a sheet of paper before the service begins or email them in advance. For those on Zoom, please write the names in the chat box so they may be read aloud. It is with great sadness that I share the passing of Natalie Freevert this past Wednesday after a brief illness. She was a longtime UUFH member and a singing partner of George Murphy. We will remember her for her love and knowledge of music, her wonderful voice, and her sense of humor. She had nurses entertained right up to the last day, we hear. A memorial service may be planned for November, details to follow. If you wish, please make a donation to the UUFH in Natalie's name. We will miss her. Do we have others on Zoom? Any in the room? We wish to remember Norm, Mary and Janet, Ed and Judy. Anybody in the room? May they be well. May they feel the love that surrounds them. Let us take a moment to give thanks for the blessings emerging even now. We close with a few more breaths in silence. May it be so. Amen. Today's split plate for July and August, our offering has been for the Grow to Give garden. And this summer, our garden is celebrating its 10th year of growing organic vegetables and fruit, all of which is donated to local food charities, such as Long Island Cares. This year, the volunteers are expanding their focus to give back to Mother Nature by eliminating invasive weeds and introducing native plants that will produce food for birds and bees and other pollinators. We hope you'll be able to give generously. You can send a check to the office or donate through the website as seen on the screen. You can donate also through Vance, the mobile app, which can be found at the App Store or Google Play. Thank you. A reading from the writings of Wendell Berry. Wendell Berry is a farmer in rural Kentucky who is also a professor of English and a writer and author. We are always faced with a choice between solving our problems by communing with one another and with our places in the world, that is, paying respectful attention and responding respectfully, or solving them by applications of raw industrial power, more machines, more explosions, more poison. So far, we've been choosing raw power, whether we're dealing with international competitors or with the land, water, and air of our country. We seem to regard forms of violence as efficient substitutes for the respectful, patient back and forth that real solutions require. By real solutions, what I mean are solutions that are not destructive, that are kind to the world and our fellow creatures, including our fellow humans. Our dominant practice now is to solve problems with other problems. This is now obvious in industrial agriculture. What we need to do is submit, for example, to the influence of actually talking to your enemy, loving your enemy. Whether we or our politicians know it or not, nature is party to all our deals and decisions, and she has more votes, a longer memory, and a sterner sense of justice than we do. A community is the mental and spiritual condition of knowing that the place is shared, and that the people who share the place define and limit the possibility of each other's lives. It may be that when we no longer know what to do, we have come to our real work, and when we no longer know which way to go, we have begun our real journey. The mind is not baffled. The mind that is not baffled is not employed. The impeded stream is the one that sings.
Good morning. I'm going to touch on the art of strategic change, and I will do so by taking you on my journey. When I first read Rachel Carson's Silent Spring in college during the 1970s, I was shocked to learn of the destruction we humans had wreaked on planet Earth. That was the beginning of my advocacy. Much of it played out through my professional career in planning and land conservation, and then later disaster recovery. I've recently retired from public service and have wanted nothing more than to enjoy the remaining years of my life. But I'm finding that I can't. I've been troubled by news of natural disasters, which seem to be happening more often, with greater intensity, and with increasingly dire economic consequences. I've also tired of the ironic avalanche of paper mail, one day's worth, asking for donations to support one environmental cause or another, of seeing the heart-wrenching misery of refugees from climate change, and of the drumbeat chorus of advocates beseeching those in power to do something. I often wish I had the chutzpah of 16-year-old Greta Thunberg, who sailed the Atlantic solo to tell world leaders at the UN to stop saying blah, blah, blah. I wish I had another 50 years to work for environmental justice. At the same time, I am just deeply disappointed that the 50 years I have spent in doing just that seem to have been for naught. And as if these weren't challenges enough, I'm bewildered by the political winds pushing us away from democracy, either into the hands of corrupt and greedy individuals or an unruly mob. There's no question in my mind that our dysfunctional relationship with our planet underlies the dire economic and social justice issue of our time, here and around the globe. These are existential problems requiring deep answers. And as I look around this room and think of conversations I have had with some of you, I don't think I'm alone in feeling this way. Now, as I mentioned, I've worked in disaster recovery, and it made me acutely aware that we here are among the incredibly fortunate minority of people living in relative isolation from the worst of climate change. We have the luxury to do more than just donate money. But speaking for myself, it's daunting to confront the power of naysayers and the anonymous viciousness of uncontrolled social media. Yet when I think about the limited impact of my day-to-day responses, I find myself asking whether a rational, concerned person couldn't do more to help solve these problems. Well, while writing this sermon, I happened on a TED Talk by Al Gore, in which he noted that an ecologically sustainable future is possible, but that, and I quote, "First, we need to flip a mental switch to truly understand that we can stop the climate crisis if we try," unquote. That made me think. Flipping a mental switch. That means changing the way we are and the way we are doing things. From a practical point of view, this is more easily said than done because few of us deal well with change, particularly radical, transformative change. And we are in a crisis, which means that more than one of us has to flip the switch. In fact, we all have to flip the switch. How to make that happen? If you were listening as we went through the readings, you will have discerned that one potential solution. And that would be to harness our individual talent collectively in community. This may sound daunting, but bear with me here. I found that when I've lost sight of the forest for the trees, that it helped to take a step back to gain perspective. Perspective on who I am and why I'm upset or ill at ease. The insights I gained helped me determine where I'd like to be, on what that future might look like, and then to figure out how best to get there. Granted, this kind of reflection takes work and time. It's a process. But this line of thinking led me to a series of what-ifs. What if, instead of beating ourselves up about the effectiveness of our recycling efforts, or agonizing over what to do with the cardboard generated by our Amazon purchases, or thinking bad thoughts about politicians who are hostage to certain corporate interests, what if we channeled that energy into a serious community dialogue about our relationship with this planet? Because that relationship underlies all the other relationships that we have with each other, within society, and within our economy. What if we could articulate a vision for this new relationship, reach a consensus on specific goals and objectives, and together craft a viable strategy for action? What if we created a rubric or measure by which to determine whether our action will bring us closer to achieving our goal? I ask these questions knowing that this kind of work requires an unflinching commitment to unearthing truth, however inconvenient, about oneself and one community. As per the ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu, a journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath one's feet. So understanding where you are before you set a course to where you want to be is critical to the journey. Now you may be thinking, oh, this sounds like too much work. It'll take too much time. We're in a crisis mode. For God's sake, let's just throw everything, including the kitchen sink, at the canvas. Well, consider this. If the past 50 years of environmental advocacy haven't corrected our dysfunctional relationship with the planet, clearly we need to rethink our strategy. And that will require a radical change in our collective mindset, because none of us as individuals has the power to change that relationship dynamic alone. We can only do it collectively. And to do that, we need to accept that we humans have a very short history as a team player with Earth's ecosystem. To be blunt, and the teachers in the room will appreciate this, we have achieved an F in planetary stewardship. And changing that grade to an A will mean changing all our cultural imperatives toward dominion and exploitation. Flipping the switch will not be an easy task for several reasons. One, we are comfortably set in our ways, and radical change can be unsettling. Also, we live in a country that lavishes praise and attention on the solitary actor much more than the supporting cast. We are also living in a time in which nearly every person with access to the internet perceives themselves an expert, sometimes credibly, sometimes not. And unfortunately, many people are second-guessers who can and do use social media to undermine valid leaders and thinkers in science, business, innovation, and even government. Lastly, the top-down approach to solving problems no longer works, if indeed it ever did. As I say this, I'm reminded of Richard Leakey, the famous anthropologist, who, after giving a scientific lecture about the evolution of Homo sapiens, was asked why humans left the cradle of their origin in the Lake Turkana region of Kenya. After a very long silence, he deadpanned, they probably just wanted to get away from their parents. Now, I'd like to play that thought out. If early humans left their elders, they were also leaving the society and place that those elders had made. For all we know, the elders may have cut down all the trees and created an economy that rewarded the elders on the backs of the youth. Sound familiar? This has been the story of colonization of nearly every country in the world. And it's happened in our lifetime, in which the New York metropolitan area spread out from the city proper out to the east end of Long Island. And here's the kicker. With each wave of people moving eastward, the same mistakes were made, over and over and over again. The quest for open spaces almost always resulted in the destruction of those very spaces, not to mention the underlying ecosystem. But now we know we can no longer run. There's no untrammeled place on Earth, much less Long Island, to run to. We must face our unmade beds and find a way to remake them. Therefore, we must ask ourselves if it is enough to support new legislation and enforce the old. If it is enough to recycle our plastic, if it is enough to exercise our economic clout by buying green or electric. Yes, these individual actions collectively will make a difference. But can these actions reverse the dysfunctional dynamic quickly enough? Will the planet's ecosystem survive our very human propensity to procrastinate? All the scientific indications are pointing to no. Now, lest we despair, perhaps we could lift a page from our own history as a species. Let's go back to that first band of humans to leave Lake Turkana. They must have had a strategy in order to have survived, right? With their evolutionary advantage of speech, they must have had a dialogue, along with a heated argument or two about why they were leaving and what they were searching for. They must have had a vision for their future. And for those people, it was a radical transformation. When a community engages in that kind of dialogue, when it embraces the diversity of opinions in the room, when it articulates a consensus of vision and sets collective goals with clear objectives and decisive action, it can leverage the talents and resources of its individual members to a level greater than the sum of its parts. To survive these troubling times, perhaps we need to channel that kind of energy toward transforming our relationship with Earth, right here, in whatever community we are in.
Blessed days and the dark secret night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you.
As we extinguish the chalice, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. Margaret Mead.
Thanks for joining us here today. For those who may be interested, you can tour the Grow to Give garden in the back today following service. There'll be someone there who will welcome you. And there are refreshments in the Sam Phillips garden following service. Thank you for joining us. Have a great day, everybody.